I'm Z Wade, the Z Wade, and Z Wade Photo, and welcome to Shutter Talk. Today, I want to take every lens that I've ever used in the Nikon Z mount system and rank it based on a few different categories. And let's not waste any time, let's just do it. Okay, hopefully that's visible to everybody. I'm also going to be doing a tier list of just my personal favorites, and I just want you to keep in mind, this is by no means scientific in any way. I'm just doing this for fun. This is all my opinion. Rent before you buy. Don't buy anything based on what I say. There's really no scientific way to do this. So I'm just giving everything 1 to 3 points and then an additional 2 points if it meets a category that is over my dead body, meaning that I would not get rid of this over my dead body. Of course, if a new version comes out and it's better, but right now, over my dead body, I might take you on in a fist or weapon fight if you try to steal it from me. Anyway, let's get into it. So first we're going to do the lenses that I've used but I do not own. And so obviously these are not going to get a over my dead body point. And so we're going to separate this. First up, we have the Nikkor Z 14-30 f4s. It is an S-line lens, and it is $1349.95 at the making of this video. And price versus performance, I'm going to give it a 2 because I feel that it is a really great lens for $1349.95. That is an appropriate price, I feel, for what you get out of that lens. Price versus construction, I'm going to give that a 2, which everything in the Z lens lineup so far that I've used or currently own, if you've been watching the channel for a while, I'm no fan of plastic on my lenses. So almost everything is going to get a 2 or less. So versatility. Okay, we've got zoom, right? So we have zooms are obviously very versatile. This is a hard category to check because a prime lens is less versatile, but you do typically get, wider apertures. And so for this, I'm going to give it a 2 because 14-30 does give us some zoom, but the f4 holds us back a little bit. Let's get into character. I'm going to give this a 1 because I don't see any significant character, right, that older lenses used to have. Most of the Z lenses don't have character, but they do have a lot of headroom because they are rather flat and characterless. Character is always a little bit better, but we can't do anything about that. Moving on to sharpness. I give this a 3 on sharpness. So for image quality, how we're going to calculate the points on that, we're just going to take an average of sharpness, character, and versatility. So we have 3, 4, 5, 6 divided by 3. That gives it 2 points. And over my dead body, obviously it's not going to get any points here. Not that it doesn't deserve it to somebody. It's just I simply, I tried these out and I did not end up buying them. And so I wouldn't do any points on that. Moving on to the 24-70 f4s. Currently at the making of this video is $99.95. Now, I actually want to give this a 3 for price versus performance because $300 cheaper than the 13-30, and 24-70 is an incredibly useful range. The only way you're going to do any better than this is the 2.8 version. So price versus construction, again, I'm going to give this a 2. We all know why. For versatility, I'm going to give it a 2 because the 24-70 is a nice range, but the f4 does hold us back a little bit. On character, I'm going to give this a 1. I find this to be a totally average lens on character. And for sharpness, I'm going to give this a 3 because it is very, very sharp. Again, we get 2 additional points for the image quality because that's 3, 4, 5, 6 divided by 2. And now we can move on to the 24-50 f4.63. The making this video, it is $400, right? $399.95. So price versus performance, it's going to get a 3. Price versus construction, it actually gets a 1. This is one of the cheaper feeling lenses in the Nikon Z lineup. For versatility, unfortunately, I do have to give this a 1 because 24-50 it's a zoom, it's versatile, but it's not the 24-70, and it's a variable aperture. I hate variable apertures, and you may not care, but this is my opinion, so unfortunately it gets a 1. For character, it gets a 1. For sharpness, it actually... Do I want to give this a 2 or do I want to give this a 3? It is an excellent kit lens. I'm going to give it a 3. I think it deserves a 3, but just barely. Just barely. So now we take 3, 4, 5 divided by 3 is going to be a decimal. That is a 1.666666 continued for a while, and then a 7. So 1.67. Moving on to the 28 to 75 f2.8. Price versus performance is a 3. I'm not a huge fan of this lens. I'm a little biased because I have the 24 to 70. There's not much difference between a 24 to 70 and 28 to 75. All you got to do is lean back or lean in a little bit. But for $1,000, you're doing pretty good here. For price versus construction, I actually want to give this a 1. I didn't particularly like how that one felt. It felt on the cheaper end. I don't like that there's a lot of plastic in these Z lenses, but there's heavy plastic, and then there's the 28 to 75. So versatility, I'm going to give this a 3 because 28 to 75 is a zoom and a constant f2.8. That's pretty good, especially for like $1,000 too. I want to go back to that. An f2.8 zoom for $1,000, it's awesome. So character, it's getting a 1. Nothing particularly exceptional about the qualities of this lens. There's nothing unique really in the look. For sharpness, I'm going to give it a 2. I'm really comparing this probably unfairly to the 24 to actually anything else in the Z lineup. It's not as sharp as almost anything else. Sorry. So for the image quality, we have 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, that's going to give us a 2 points on that. The 35 f1.8s. If you saw my videos, I am no fan of this one. $849.95, which is insane. Price versus performance, I'm going to give it a 1. 35s are great street lenses, yet this thing is slow. If you're doing street photography, speed is the name of the game. If something's happening and you're popping off and you want to jump over and shoot it, I feel like this lens is just a bad value. Okay. Price versus construction, we'll give it a 2. It's plasticky, but it feels like a solid plastic. Versatility, I'm going to give it a 2. And for character, we're going to give it a 1. For sharpness, I'm going to give it a 2. I feel like it's just okay. And so 4 or 5, that's another 1.67. I should have another category for just like slap you in the face value. And this one would definitely get a lot of points and slap you in the face with value. The 50mm f1.8s, an insane value. Rather, the only reason I don't have this anymore is because I have the f1.2. So price versus performance, no, not 32, although it probably deserves it. We're going to give it a 3. Price versus construction, we're going to give it a 2. And for versatility, we're going to give it a 2. And for character, I do have to give it for character, I actually have to give this a 2 because this lens in the studio is beautiful. That's where the contrast really comes out on this lens. If you take it out in the field, it's just kind of like, okay, it's got nice colors. It's super duper sharp. But in the studio with some like lighting, it does something special compared to the other Z lenses that we've gone through so far. And so it's an exceptional lens for under $700. It's insane. How the 35 f1.8s is $850 right now versus the 50mm 1.8 at $629.95 is beyond me. But if you don't have a 50mm, even if you don't like 50mm, you'll like the qualities of this lens. So on sharpness, I've got to give it a 3. It is super duper offensive sharpness. So we have 3, 6, 7, 8. 8 divided by 3. We have 2.6, 7. Now the 85 1.8s, $799.95. Price versus performance, I personally am going to give this a 1. And that is because for $800, it needs to do something more. And I find that this lens is almost absurdly intended for portrait photography. I like 85s because I find it to be a fairly versatile focal length. And yeah, it's really popular with portraits. However, to really get the life out of this lens, it needs to be used in the studio. I don't even really like it outside. I tried taking pictures of Lolly. It's really slow, right? Which if you're shooting portraits, it doesn't need to be fast, and so it's fine. But I shoot everything, and so I like versatility, right? I'm just going to skip this real quick, and I'm going to go versatility 1, okay? I don't think that $800 is a very good value for this lens. So price versus performance, I just don't get it. Like, I don't know what Nikon was doing. Price versus construction, we're going to give it a 2 because it does feel pretty good in the hands. It feels hefty. It's heavier plastic. Let's go for character. I got to give it a 1. It's flat. It's flat. Well, now in the studio, it looks great. So I am going to give it a 2. For sharpness, it gets a 3 because it's wickedly sharp. It just takes a second to get there. So we have 3, 4, 5, 6. That gives us 2 points for the image quality. And the winner for the lenses I've used but do not currently own is the 50mm f1.8s with 14.67 points. The second place goes to the 24-70 f4s with 13 points. And third place and fourth place are tied at 12 points for the 14-30 f4s and the 28-75 f2.8. Fifth place goes to the 85mm f1.8s. You can see what happens whenever versatility takes a huge hit because it doesn't do anything except portraits very well, with 11 points going to the 85 1.8s. Now in sixth place, we have the 24-50 f4.63 with 10.67 points. And that's embarrassing because that means that, in my opinion, the 35mm f1.8s gets 9.67 points and pulls up last in 7th place. That's what happens whenever you overprice something. That lens is not worth $849.95. I'm sorry, Nikon, and I'm sorry anybody that loves that lens. Is it the best 35 Nikon's ever made? Probably, but you come up in last whenever you totally missed the market on that one. And my advice to Nikon, take that lens and price it, because I know 35s aren't expensive to make. 35s and 50s are cheap. Price that at the 50mm f1.8s. The 50mm 1.8s is still going to win, but it will at least get more points, in my opinion, for price versus performance. It would at least have a 2